Recording in progress. Okay, welcome again to the special presentation of the Evanston History Center. I'm Chris Hartzell. Before we get started tonight, make sure everyone's got themselves muted. I do want to mention that the holidays are coming, and here at the Evanston History Center, we do have some holiday lights and walking tours scheduled for December 9th and 10th. They're evening walking tours, and we'll be hosting a warm beverage on the terrace, and you will be able to see the house in between the tours. So please check our website. It's $20 a person, and it's something new we're trying this year, so hopefully it'll be really great. We're so glad to have Dick Lanyon here tonight to discuss the work of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. The MWRD provides wastewater and stormwater management and other related services to protect the environment. Dick's career with the MWRD spanned nearly 48 years, and he served as executive director for over 4 years. I admit some more folks. Dick has written many articles and several books on the system, beginning with his Building the Canal to Save Chicago, which discusses the first canal that was put in to reverse the flow of the Chicago River. Fascinating. And my personal favorite, his Draining Chicago, the Early Years and the North Area, which talks a lot about the canal going through Evanston and shows some great photos at the time. And I used it a lot when I wrote the Frogtown Self-Guided Walking Tour, which is still available on our website. So I recommend you look for that. Dick holds a Bachelor and Master of Civil Engineering degrees from UIUC, and so many awards that I don't have time to read them all, but it's capped with his induction into the National Association of Clean Water Agencies Hall of Fame. He also held many leadership roles on environmental protection and water management, water resource management from the local to the federal level. He and his wife, Marcia, live in Evanston. Dick has served as an Evanston alderman and on the Evanston Public Library Board of Directors, and just finished an 8-year term as chairman of the Evanston Utilities Commission. He continues to advocate for sensible and sustainable water management in the urban environment. I'm looking forward to hearing what Dick has to share with us tonight, and I'm also hoping for some more really cool photographs. If you have any questions during the presentation, please put them into the chat and we will address them at the end of Dick's talk. Dick, take it away.
Thank you, Chris. I hope you can see me now.
Yep.
Thank you for that introduction, Chris. That was great. And I'd like to thank the Evanston History Center for hosting this presentation. And I'd like to welcome you all out there in Zoom land. Thanks for your interest, and I hope you find this to be informative. I'm going to share my screen. I have a bunch of slides to show you, and here we go. Let's get this. Yeah. I'm going to be taking you on a tour of Evanston drainage and flooding history, the 1990 long-range sewer improvement program, the existing sewer systems, and current stormwater management planning. The 1975 publication at Left attempted to explain the flooding problems and other self-help guidance for homeowners to reduce the impacts of flooding. However, serious flooding persisted, as shown by the July 1981 article featuring a youngster floating on Sherman Avenue near Nichols School. I need to move my slides. There we go. These are the resources I've used to prepare this presentation, and I'm grateful for the help provided by David Stoneback, Director of Public Works Agency for the City of Evanston, and currently acting as Deputy City Manager. I take full responsibility for the content of this presentation. In addition to Lake Michigan, Evanston has one other major water feature. The North Shore Channel borders the southern part of the city and courses through the northern part, reaching the lake in Wilmette. Water normally flows south away from the lake. Evanston's topography may appear to be flat, but there are subtle topographical features. Throughout the eastern part of Evanston, Chicago Avenue and Sheridan Road, shown in red on the right, and Ridge Avenue to its left, are slightly elevated above the adjoining land. These routes follow ancient beach ridges formed when the lake surface was at a higher elevation. The beach ridges are the Graceland Spit on the right and the Rose Hill Spit on the left. The Rose Hill Spit is considerably wider in South Evanston. These two beach ridges were formed by the littoral drift of sand during periods of higher water level. The land between Chicago and Ridge Avenues was a marsh, often called a swamp, as on this mural at the Ridgeville Park District Community House. To the east of Chicago Avenue, land slopes down to the lake. To the west of Ridge Avenue, the land slopes down to the west toward the North Shore Channel. Before the channel was built in 1910, this lower land was also a large marsh in wet weather. The marshes were drained by constructed ditches and the installation of sewers as development occurred. Proceeding north, Chicago Avenue rises slightly in elevation, continuing north as Sheridan Road through the Northwestern University campus. At Isabella Street, Sheridan Road turns west, rising in elevation to join Ridge Avenue and continuing north. Beyond Evanston's north border, the Rose Hill Spit ends where glacial till moraines form the bluffs along the western shore of Lake Michigan. In far northwest Evanston, Grosse Point Road follows another beach ridge, the Wilmette Spit. Along this beach ridge is the highest land elevation in the city, 60 feet above Lake Michigan. Being ancient beach ridges, the soil near these spits is composed of sand, but clay lies beneath the sand. A former clay pit, now the lake in Loveless Park, shows that a thin layer of sand covers the clay. The land between the beach ridges, which were formerly marshes in wet weather, have mostly clay soils and decomposed vegetation. Historic flooding in Evanston occurred more frequently in the formerly marshy areas between the beach ridges. Evanston's first residents settled along the beach ridges. Sewers were installed primarily to carry away domestic sewage and accommodate some land drainage. These early combined sewers were constructed using vitrified clay tile for smaller sizes and brick for larger sizes. Before the North Shore Channel was built, the sewers discharged to Lake Michigan. In 1889, Evanston had an area of 4.5 square miles and a population of about 9,000. In that year, the Sanitary District of Chicago was created, but Evanston opted not to be included in the district. In 1902, Evanston's Commissioner of Public Works declared the combined sewer system to be inadequate in size and depth to serve the demands of the city. By 1903, Evanston had annexed South Evanston and its population had tripled. Another opportunity to be included in the sanitary district was not refused. 8 years later, in 1911, the sanitary district, presently known as the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, completed construction of the North Shore Channel and placed it in service. Evanston now had the opportunity to redirect the flow of its sewers to the channel and away from the lake. In 1916, Evanston began construction of sewers discharging to the channel for new developing areas in the southwest part of the city. Some sewers in North Evanston were already redirected to the channel as part of the channel construction. However, Evanston could not afford to redirect the flow in 8 sewers discharging to the lake from Clark Street to the south city limit. These sewers were far from the channel, and the land east of Chicago was too low for sewers to flow by gravity to the channel. Also in 1916, the Water Reclamation District began construction of the Evanston intercepting sewers, a system of large sewers that relieves city sewers along the south lakefront and the southeast side of Ridge Avenue. Relieving the sewers led to the construction of numerous multifamily residential buildings. The groundbreaking celebration for the intercepting sewer under Custer Street took place near Custer and Mulford Streets on August 23, 1916. The Water Reclamation District built an intercepting sewer along the lakefront to capture sewage discharging to the lake. The two lakefront intercepting sewers met at Lake Street, and another sewer in Lake Street conveyed sewage and stormwater west to the Evanston pumping station at Elmwood and Lake Streets. From the pumping station, the Lake Street outfall sewer conveyed sewage and stormwater to the North Shore Channel. The Water Reclamation District also built other intercepting sewers in Evanston to drain the area between Chicago and Ridge Avenues. An intercepting sewer begins at Howard Street and flows north under Custer and Elmwood Streets to the Lake Street outfall sewer. To drain the downtown area, another sewer was built starting at Emerson Street, flowing south under Orrington to the Lake Street outfall sewer. Last, the Emerson Street outfall sewer was constructed from Ashland Avenue to the channel to relieve more local sewers. The pumping station at Elmwood and Lake was necessary because sewage and stormwater from the low lakefront area needed to be lifted so it could flow to the North Shore Channel by gravity in the Lake Street outfall sewer. Between 1911 and 1928, sewage was discharged to the channel without treatment, but it was diluted in the channel by pumping lake water into the channel at Wilmette. Most of the length of the Lake Street outfall sewer was constructed by the open cut method. Looking east from Pittner Avenue on September 19, 1917, the sewer is being built in the trench. The excavated trench is lined with timber piling for safety to prevent a trench cave-in. The piling will be removed as the trench is backfilled. However, where the Lake Street outfall sewer passed under the former Mayfair Branch Railroad at Dodge Avenue, the sewer was built by the tunnel method at the request of the railroad. On November 2nd, 1917, the tunnel had been excavated and a steel liner installed to prevent a tunnel cave-in. The concrete sewer will be built inside the tunnel. This method of construction allowed continuous train service on the railroad above. Looking east on September 19th, 1917, along Emerson Street toward Dodge Avenue, the Emerson Street outfall sewer is also being constructed by the open cut method. Both the Emerson and Lake Street outfall sewers originally discharged to the railroad. Evanston officials allowed the Water Reclamation District to dispose of sewer construction spoil along the lakefront to create parkland. On January 2nd, 1917, looking north along the lakefront from Davis Street, a Water Reclamation District engineer is inspecting the spoil disposal area. Northwestern University buildings are in the background on the right. In 1928, the Emerson and Lake Street outfall sewers, as well as many other Evanston sewers, were connected to the Water Reclamation District's north side intercepting sewer number 1 that flows south along the west side of the North Shore Channel to the O'Brien Water Reclamation Plant at Howard Street. After this time, dry weather sewage no longer flowed into the channel. During wet weather, excess combined sewage and stormwater would overflow to the channel. The Green Bay Road intercepting sewer was constructed in 1950 to serve North Evanston and suburbs farther north. The north side intercepting sewer number 1 was built in clay by the tunnel method and is about 40 feet deep to receive sewage from higher level local sewers. On August 30th, 1922, construction has been completed except for the removal of construction materials. The intercepting sewer could not be placed in service until October 1928, when the O'Brien plant was placed in service. The Evanston combined sewer system was constructed as the city developed, mostly from 1880 to 1930. Much of the system has been in the ground over 100 years. Typical of combined sewer systems built at the time, the sewer conveyed sewage as well as stormwater during wet weather. Over 60% of the 144 miles of Evanston combined sewers are 12 inches in diameter or smaller pipes. While this size is adequate for dry weather sewage, it is not sufficient for wet weather drainage. Sewage and stormwater backup into basements occurred frequently in Evanston during intense storms. Several studies through 1980 demonstrated the high cost of remediation, but due to high cost, no action was taken. Combined sewers are located under every street in Evanston and convey sewage in dry weather to the Water Reclamation District, intercepting sewers, and the treatment plant. The construction of combined sewers was prevalent prior to 1950. Since then, combined sewer construction is prohibited. The combined sewer is owned and operated and maintained by the city. Lateral sewers convey sewage to the combined sewer from homes and businesses. The lateral sewer is the responsibility of the property owner. Combined sewers also convey stormwater. Prior to recent sewer improvements, during intense rain events, the combined sewer often became surcharged, that is, completely full and flowing under pressure. With limited combined sewer capacity, excess combined sewage and stormwater would back up into basements and onto streets. Excess flow would also overflow to the North Shore Channel, hence the term combined sewer overflow. Flooding increased over time due to more impervious surfaces, such as alleys, parking lots, sidewalks, streets, as well as more buildings and fewer open spaces. Impervious land surfaces prevent the infiltration of rainfall and hasten and increase the amount of rainfall runoff. Imperviousness in Evanston, shown by the red line, increased over time with population growth and development of commercial, industrial, and residential land use. Based on 1988 land cover data, Evanston's land surface was estimated to be 61% impervious. Imperviousness has increased since then with larger buildings and parking lots and wider streets. Imperviousness in 2018 will soon be known with the completion of a study, which I shall describe later. Two news articles describe two storms in July 1981 and August 1987 that caused extensive flood damage. The third article explains the frustration of Evanston elected officials upon learning that federal funding for flood control was not likely. To address persistent flooding, the Evanston Flood and Pollution Control Commission was created in 1975 and was composed of citizens and members of the city council. During the 1980s, the commission oversaw the preparation of a flood control plan. A hydrologic and hydraulic model of the combined sewer system identified many locations where combined sewers needed relief to reduce local flooding. Meanwhile, underway since 1975, the Water Reclamation District was constructing the deep tunnel, and it was known that the deep tunnel would provide an outlet for Evanston's stormwater. Located in rock 200 feet below the North Shore Channel, the deep tunnel was placed in service in 1985. In 1990, the Evanston City Council approved the long-range sewer improvement program. Construction began in 1992. The program included three components. First, the installation of large diameter relief sewers installed about 60 feet below ground that convey combined sewage and stormwater from the combined sewers above to the deep tunnel below. Large relief sewers ranging in size from 6 to 10 feet in diameter are shown in purple on this map. Smaller relief sewers ranging from 2 to 5 feet in diameter are shown in green. There are 5 large relief sewer systems discharging to deep tunnel at Elgin Road and at Noyes, Lake, Main, and Mulford Streets. Let's take a moment to look at a couple of these systems. First, draining Northwest Evanston, most of Northwest Evanston, is a large relief sewer beginning at its connection to the deep tunnel, flows a little bit north in Elgin and then north in McDaniel Street at 9 feet diameter. Reducing a 6.5 foot diameter, it continues on up McDaniel to Hartzell Street. And you'll notice the smaller green relief sewers connect to the larger purple relief sewers. A main branch off the tunnel under McDaniel flows west under Payne, north under Lincolnwood, west under Colfax, and north under Marcy to Central Avenue. Again, smaller sewers connecting to these larger relief sewers drain the northwest area. The mainstream tunnels begins at the deep tunnel in a 10-foot diameter flowing, going east under Main to Dodge, where it then reduces slightly to 9.5 feet, continuing all the way over to Judson Street. From Judson Street, a network of smaller relief sewers drains the area east of Chicago Avenue. Branching off the main tunnel under Main Street are 2 6-foot tunnels, one under Sherman extending south to Oakland Street, and another under Maple Street extending north to Davis Street. Again, smaller sewers branch off of these larger sewers, draining the area between Ridge and Chicago Avenue. Other sewers connecting to the Main Street relief sewer drain part of the west side. The Lake Street system drains more parts of the west side, and far south, the Mulford Street sewer drains southwest Evanston. Now you'll notice some areas here that aren't served by relief sewers. I'll explain those in a moment. The excess flow in combined sewers is discharged to relief sewers at numerous critical locations throughout the city. At each location, the 2 sewers are connected at a drop structure in which excess flow in the combined sewer will overflow and drop into the relief sewer. A check valve prevents the relief sewer from backing up into the combined sewer and causing basement backup. Also, street stormwater connections to the combined sewer have been eliminated and replaced by direct connections to the relief sewer. This provides protection against basement backup caused by street stormwater drainage. The second component of the plan is for flow restrictors. Restrictors are installed in combined sewers where a relief sewer is not installed. Restrictors are in street and alley stormwater structures, limiting the rate of flow into combined sewers. The limitation prevents the combined sewer from becoming overwhelmed and causing basement backup. This protection extends for all storms up to and including the 100-year storm. Excess storm water temporarily ponds on the street, but should not exceed the height of the curb. Stormwater forced to stay on the street can flow down the street for up to 2 blocks, where it will be intercepted by high-capacity inlets to relief sewers or storm sewers. The third component, separate storm sewers, were installed to convey surface stormwater directly to the channel or the lake. These sewers handle only stormwater, and the tributary areas are in proximity to the channel or lake. Where separate sewers discharge to the lake, the area is small and immediately adjacent to the lakefront. This innovative approach of combined sewers relief, street drainage restriction, and storm sewer separation was utilized because it was less costly than installing a completely new separate sewer system throughout the entire system, or the entire city. Looking at this map, you see the green lines here are the storm sewers. So these are the areas that were not covered in the earlier map. These sewers drain directly to the channel and are generally smaller areas. This triangular shaped area between the channel and Green Bay Road is also served by storm sewers. Some small areas near the lakefront, like up on Roslyn Terrace, Milburn Street, discharge directly to the lake. Another system of storm sewers serves a part of southwest Evanston. Roughly 1/4 of the city's stormwater is managed by storm sewers, those areas shown with red or yellow rectangles discharging to the channel or the lake. No sewage is mixed with this stormwater. The remaining 3/4 of the city's stormwater is managed by combined and relief sewers. The colored areas are the drainage basins of the relief or storm sewer systems. The larger part of the combined sewage and stormwater is discharged to the deep tunnel, and the smaller part is discharged to the O'Brien Water Reclamation Plant. The long-range sewer improvement program was constructed between 1992 and 2008 at a cost of $210 million. Evanston received the Clean Water State Revolving Fund 2006 Pisces Award for innovative use of Clean Water Act state revolving funds to improve water quality. In 2009, the city received the American Society of Civil Engineers Illinois Section Outstanding Civil Engineering Achievement of the Year Award for the Combined Sewer Relief Program. Evanston does not have a sewage treatment plant. All of Evanston's sewage and some combined sewage and stormwater flows into the north side intercepting sewer number 1 and discharges to the O'Brien plant located at Howard Street in Skokie. During dry weather, sewage is treated at the O'Brien plant and reclaimed water is discharged to the North Shore Channel. During wet weather, sewage and stormwater discharges to the intercepting sewers and the plant until these facilities reach full capacity. At the same time, excess flow is being discharged to the deep tunnel from Evanston relief sewers and combined sewers. When full capacity is reached, each Evanston combined sewer or relief sewer begins to discharge to the deep tunnel via a drop shaft. 12 drop shafts serve Evanston, and each is located along the North Shore Channel. The top of the drop shaft at Greenleaf Street in Harper Payne Park is slightly above ground level and identified with a Water Reclamation District sign. Each drop shaft is monitored over a secure radio network at a Water Reclamation District control center. The radio antenna is mounted on the pole positioned next to the drop shaft. The drop shaft at Greenleaf Street is identified as DS M105E. M refers to the mainstream tunnel, 105 is the number of this drop shaft, and E refers to the east side of the channel. Drop shafts serving Evanston are numbered 101 through 112. Evanston has over 20 sewers that discharge to the drop shafts. Some sewers connect directly, and other sewers connect via the north side intercepting sewer or a local connecting sewer. Overflow from an Evanston combined sewer, shown in the upper right, flows through a connecting sewer and a control gate, and then down the vertical shaft to the deep tunnel in rock 200 feet below ground. A tide gate in the Evanston sewer prevents water in the channel from backing up into the local sewer and connecting sewers. A separating wall in the vertical shaft allows flow to drop to the tunnel in part of the shaft, while air is allowed to escape through the other part of the shaft. Vents in the separating wall allow aspiration of the dropping flow, which helps dissipate the energy at the bottom of the shaft. A relief sewer would connect with the drop shaft at a lower level, but with the same controls. The drop shaft serving Evanston is 12 feet in diameter and lined with concrete to prevent exfiltration into the bedrock. During dry weather, the tunnel is empty, waiting for the next storm. Each drop shaft is to the side of the tunnel and enters the tunnel as shown. The bottom of the drop shaft is referred to as a boot. Evanston is at the north end of the 30-mile-long mainstream tunnel. The mainstream tunnel gradually enlarges and slopes down in the downstream direction, reaching an internal diameter of 33 feet at the McCook Reservoir. The tunnel invert is much lower at the reservoir, 100 feet lower than it is under Evanston. At the south end of the tunnel, combined sewage and stormwater flows into the McCook Reservoir, where it is held until it can be pumped back to the Stickney Water Reclamation Plant for complete treatment. The McCook Reservoir is located between the Sanitary and Ship Canal, shown at left, and Interstate Route 55, shown at right. Currently, the reservoir has a capacity of 3.5 billion gallons and can accommodate the excess flow from most storms. By 2029, construction of the expanded reservoir, shown in the background, should be complete. The complete reservoir will have a capacity of 10 billion gallons and will be capable of accommodating all storms, except the occasional very large storm. The mainstream pumping station is located west of the McCook Reservoir, shown in the background. There are two large pump rooms, 350 feet below ground at this location, to pump the combined stormwater and sewage from the reservoir through a 5-mile-long tunnel to the Stickney Water Reclamation Plant. The reclaimed water is discharged to the Sanitary and Ship Canal and continues southwesterly to the Des Plaines and Illinois rivers. Despite the benefit of reduced basement backup and flooding in Evanston resulting from the implementation of the long-range sewer improvement program and deep tunnel, a major storm in April of 2013 resulted in widespread basement backup and flooding. The direction and intensity of the storm from southwest to northeast filled the deep tunnel by the time the storm passed over Evanston. The North Shore Channel had already risen by then, and Evanston sewer outlets were restricted. McCook Reservoir had not yet been placed in service. With the reservoir in service, a similar storm today would not result in such widespread flooding. Evanston's November 2018 Climate Action and Resiliency Plan included the need for a new stormwater management plan to address predictions that global warming would cause more intense storms. The Evanston Stormwater Master Plan study began in April 2020 and will conclude in April 2022. Also known as the H&H study, a hydrologic and hydraulic modeling of the combined sewer and relief storm sewer basins will be completed based on 2018 land cover data and imperviousness. As of today, November 2021, the first 3 tasks shown have been completed. The resulting plan will identify needed improvements in Evanston infrastructure to handle the threat of future basement backup and flooding. Capital improvement projects can then be identified to construct the needed improvements. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your interest and attention. Here is my contact information, and now I'm pleased to answer your questions.
Thank you, Dick. That was great. And thanks for the cool old photos that I was hoping to see. We do have a couple questions that came into the chat room. And in case I forget again, I just want to mention that this is being recorded and the link will be available on the Evanston History Center YouTube channel. And that link will be on our website and in social media, but also you can just type in Evanston History Center YouTube and it'll come up and you can find the talk in there. So one question that we had is, why is stormwater not directed toward the lake more systematically, particularly for areas closer to the lake?
Well, that's simply because the sewer system under Evanston is no longer directed toward the lake. What does drain to the lake is a very narrow strip of land, including the beaches and some of the parkland along the lakefront. Other than that, Evanston is completely sewered. And, you know, stormwater is not as clean as we may think it is. So capturing it and treating it is better for the environment.
I was thinking that because in some historical research I've done, I've come across things that said, you know, it was none too clean along the lakefront years, you know, decades and decades ago, before all the system got put in, that sometimes the stormwater would bring some stuff you didn't necessarily want to go swimming in along the lake. And another question that we had that came in that said, is the sluice gate normally closed and opened as needed? But I'm not sure.
The sluice gate or the control gate controlling the flow into deep tunnel is normally left partially open. These gates are operated by operators at the control center at the Water Reclamation District. And if the tunnel is filling up too full, they will close the gates to restrict rapid filling, because experience has shown that rapid filling causes geysering at some locations. And we don't want that to happen.
I don't think so. Another question came in. What is your opinion of using backflow prevention valves to prevent basement backups and the use of overhead basement plumbing to prevent same?
Those are both good technologies. I would say that the overhead sewers are a better remedy. A backflow gate in your sewer might jam and not seal properly. The other option would be to have a manual gate valve that you would have to open and close on, or just to leave open but then close when it does rain.
Interesting. How is it possible to control rainwater not going above the curb when restrictors are used in intersections after a heavy rain?
Well, I don't know how it's possible not to let that happen. But, you know, the system was designed so that it shouldn't exceed the top of the curb. Now, if there's additional restrictions like leaves covering an inlet, then you might have a little higher water level than the top of the curb.
Someone says, I live on Princeton Avenue near Centennial Park. Our water pressure is very low. Why is this? Does it have to do with the fact that our area is elevated?
I'm not sure where Centennial Park is. Princeton Avenue is in
That's
northwest Evanston, right?
way
Yes.
west. Yeah.
Okay, well, as I said in showing you the first couple of maps along Grosse Point Road, that's pretty high elevation. And there is a large water storage tank up there, and that is probably why at times you might have lower water pressure. But the system is supposed to be kept with sufficient pressure to deliver fire flow water. So you might submit your concern to the the city's 311 number and have the water department check your system.
Someone says, what does the future look like regarding flooding from the lake as climate change continues? What should residents do to prepare?
Well, what the future holds, we don't know, but there are studies, models, et cetera, that show that there is going to be a rise in lake level. We've seen a rise this past year, and then we saw a fairly rapid decline because this year was drier, and so the long-term forecast, the Lake Michigan and Lake Huron is considered one body of water because of the large connection up at the Straits of Mackinac. And the outflow from Lake Huron through the Detroit River and so forth is a pretty significant passageway for water. So, the lake can't get too full because the outflow will just increase through the St. Clair and Detroit rivers flowing on down into Lake Erie. What can residents do well, if you live right on the lakefront, you might want to consult with a engineering firm to reinforce your lakeshore or to prevent erosion. Most of the lakefront in Evanston is publicly owned, and we've had some problems with this high water recently, and protections have been put in place at a number of beaches and parks. You'll notice the large bags of gravel and some additional rock riprap to reinforce the shoreline.
My family used to have a cottage in the Indiana Dunes, and a lot of cottages went in the lake out there over time. So got to get that revetment in there. What effect, if any, on the system did the increased number of high-rise buildings cause?
Well, currently, with the city ordinance currently in effect, property developers have to include stormwater management technologies to reduce their impact. So the discharge to the sewer system from these facilities is restricted, and there may be some rooftop storage, there may be underground vaults to store stormwater, some green infrastructure to try to infiltrate some of that water, but the newer developments should not increase the risks of flooding.
So many questions coming in. Someone mentioned that he has witnessed geysering at the Main and Judson City parking lot. I don't know. That's interesting.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That he witnessed geysering at the parking lot at Main and Judson?
Yes, well, in that parking lot, there is a graded cover on the shaft at the east end of that large relief sewer under Main Street. And what will cause that geysering is the rapid filling of the system from stormwater, and a form of a surge in the a pressure surge in the system, and then it will relieve itself by rising rapidly up that shaft.
Cool, let's check that out. We will be installing impervious paver driveway. Will that help with stormwater runoff? Also, we have a rain garden planned.
Well, anything a property owner can do to keep stormwater on their property and manage it in some way, like infiltration or whatever, will help in reducing the threat of future flooding. However, much of this future flooding, if this current stormwater master plan proves it to be a problem, is going to require some increases in our gray infrastructure also.
Someone is expressing concern that along the issue of stormwater going into the lake or the channel, that there's a lot of asphalt roofing materials that are carcinogenic and other things. And is that something that the water reclamation district might try to do to change building codes or road construction materials? Is that anything that they advocate for? Or
Well,
is that even a concern?
That wouldn't really be the Water Reclamation District really isn't authorized to control building materials and so forth. And discharges to the lake are under control of the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, who issues permits for both for storm sewers, just like they issue permits for treatment plants. As far as these materials are concerned, discharges to the lake have to be controlled in some way, and the common technology is to put in a settling tank or a device that encourages settlement of solids and materials before it discharges to the lake.
Someone asked, and I remember this very well, what was the purpose years ago of disconnecting downspouts from homes and apartment buildings, where they used to go into the sewer, and now you had to connect them so they just would dump out into your yard?
Well, direct connection to the sewer system was what caused the sewer system to overload. And so by reducing your roof drainage and not putting it into the combined sewer, you would reduce the risk of basement backups.
That was quite a undertaking. I remember when everybody had to do that, go disconnect. I think that might be, oh, here comes another one. When you calculate how much water can be absorbed during heavy rainfall or storms, do you factor in how much the trees can absorb, especially old growth trees? I've seen a presentation by a company called Davy where they fly over a city and provide a report showing how many gallons trees can absorb. Their point is old growth trees do the most work for the city absorbing water in storms. And are trees factored into your calculations?
Yes, when they do the modeling, the hydrologic modeling to predict how much stormwater will end up in a storm sewer or a relief sewer, they take into account not only the rainfall that would be held on a tree, but rainfall that would be infiltrated in the soil and it would be held in surface depressions and so forth. When you get 3 inches of rain, just a small amount of that is what's held on the trees and surface depressions and so forth. But it does help a little bit.
Someone would like to know, and I would too, how did you become interested in this area and this topic, career-wise?
Oh my goodness, that's a long story. Well, I'll just say this. I started out leaving high school wanting to be an architect. And I spent my first year at the University of Illinois in architecture. And at the end of that year, I realized I wasn't going to be a very good architect. And I switched to engineering because I thought, well, if I can't design buildings, at least I'll help build them. So I wanted to then build buildings and bridges. But when I went to downstate Illinois, I found my interest in water. And that's how I ended up where I am today.
That's great. Great. Well, thank you. We're getting, oh, well, no, hello. I was just going to say, there's some more. What might residents who live a block or two from the lake do to prepare basements and foundations for increased storm flooding from high waves and increased wet, heavy rains?
Well, be sure you build your foundations and any openings in the foundation wall higher than any predicted rise in the lakes. That's number one. And then, of course, you want to be sure to seal your walls so that they don't, water doesn't percolate through any tiny cracks or anything.
Someone has just ordered your book on the early city in the north area. Good, that was good. And I've got just a lot of kudos. Everyone saying thank you so much. They really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you. It was very informative. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you on behalf of the Emerson History Center for joining us. And thank you all for coming tonight. And look for Dick's books and the link for the recording on the website. Thanks, Dick.
Thank you, Chris. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.